Hi, and welcome to another TESOL question and answer video. In this video, we're going to look at two of the most important steps in a PPP grammar lesson plan, the elicitation step and the systematization step of the presentation stage. These steps are so important because this is really where we get to take apart a grammar point and help students understand clearly why and how we use it. So let's get started. So by the time students arrive at the elicitation step of their grammar lesson, they have just seen the target language in context. It was presented to them maybe in a dialogue or a paragraph. So they might have some general understanding of what the grammar looks like and why we use it. But they haven't seen any of the details of the form, the content, or the structure of the grammar point. And so it's the elicitation step that we start to turn students' attention to the details of the grammar point, some of the patterns that they recognize. And the first step in doing this is to establish the communicative function of the grammar. In other words, this is why we use the grammar, for what communicative purpose we use the grammar. That's the only real requirement of the elicitation step. Students should finish that step understanding why we use the grammar or the communicative function. Now, at that point, we can also start to cover some of the structural details of the grammar, or we may wait to cover those in the systematization step that's going to come a few steps down the line. Whether or not we do that depends kind of on the complexity of the grammar point, the level of the details, and the context that we've chosen. And we could cover some of those details now, or we could wait till the systematization step. You can think of the systematization step as the moment where we provide a really detailed reference for students, where we're going to document the grammar point that we're teaching in full. This is what students are going to be writing down in their notebooks. This is what students are going to be looking at later when they want to review the grammar point. And so it can contain four components: the name of the grammar point, the communicative function of the grammar, an example of the grammar, or preferably a few examples of the grammar, and the structural components of the grammar point. If we're going to be showing students any variations on the grammar point, so for example, the interrogative form or the negative form, this is the time that we would document that as well. Now, it's important to remember that as far as we can, we should be eliciting these points from students by asking them questions about what is the communicative function of the grammar, what is the words that make up the pattern of the grammar point. And so that's where sometimes we can confuse the elicitation step and the systematization step. The elicitation step uses the technique of elicitation to establish the communicative function of the grammar point. That's really the only requirement of this step. And we can use the elicitation step as a starting point for the systematization step, where we would write down the communicative function on the board, for example, and then add to that later during the systematization step. Now, the technique of elicitation is really ideally used throughout the course of a lesson. It's really just a way of drawing knowledge from the students. It's asking them concept questions to have them articulate what they know in their own language. And it's a great way of helping us to check what they've understood and what perhaps would need some further clarification. So let's summarize what we've learned about the differences between these two important steps. The purpose of the elicitation step is to elicit the function of the grammar point, why we use it. We might move forward and look at some of the structural components of the grammar, but we don't necessarily do this at this step. On the other hand, in the systematization step, we are documenting every relevant detail about the grammar point that students really need to know, okay? As far as techniques go, we use a lot of elicitation in the elicitation step. Obviously, we're going to elicit that communicative function from the grammar. But as far as the systematization step is concerned, we also use elicitation, but because this step is longer and more extensive, we're going to use different techniques. We can show students examples of the grammar. We can use timelines. We're going to give students a written summary of the grammar. Really, all of the relevant details that students can keep and take away from the lesson to review that grammar point later. So we hope that this has cleared up the differences between these two very important components of a PPP grammar lesson. Thanks for watching.